Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about everything you need to know about highlighting and contouring. So I am going to be talking about both cream and powder highlighting and contouring, so we're going to kind of go through both. I tend to like to layer my highlighting and contouring, but it's kind of personal preference which one you want to do. I would suggest that if you are a beginner that you start off with powder because it's a little bit easier to find shades that will match your skin tone or work with your skin tone. And I think it's a little bit easier to blend and go in with like a softer hand than cream contouring. That's kind of like a process, honestly. It's a little aggressive if you're beginning. Now, if you guys haven't seen my foundation video yet, I highly suggest that you watch it before this video because I talk a lot about color, how to color match for your skin tone. Undertones and overtones are pretty much undertones are really important for this. That video is an excellent introduction to color and dimension, and I'm going to kind of elaborate on that in this video. So before we get into color, I want to talk about the dimension of the face. So in my foundation video, I talked about how when we apply foundation, it is opaque and your skin has a lot of color dimension in it. It has color coming through, and it's very difficult to replicate that kind of effect. And this is where contouring and highlighting can really help bring back that dimension to the face. It's the whole point of it, basically. You're defining your features. Contouring, you're gonna be using a darker color. Highlighting, you're using a lighter color than your skin tone. Typically, I would go 2-3 shades darker and or lighter than your skin. And for contouring, you're going to be placing that shade, the darker shade, in the hollows of your face or any areas of your face that you want to set back. And highlighters, the lighter shades, are going to be placed in the high points of your face, basically places that you want to bring forward. So understanding your own features, your own face shape is really important. It takes a lot of practice, I think, because you might have a heart-shaped face, but you don't necessarily want to contour it just like everyone else who has a heart-shaped face. It's really personal preference. So the typical places that you would contour, that you would place the darker shades, are along the temples. Kind of set this area back, and basically what you're doing is you're adding more shape. You're refining your own face's features, because when you place your foundation down, you're kind of flattening it because you're placing down an opaque color. So now we're going to be going in with the darks, and we're going to start kind of carving out the features. So you place a dark shade along the temples, underneath the cheekbone, to kick out the hollow of your cheek a little bit more and bring this area forward, and along the jawline. Those are the typical places that you're going to contour. Now, where you're going to highlight is typically going to be the center of the forehead. This is one of the high points of the face, the cheekbones, underneath the eyes, really just to kind of like brighten up the face. You want all of the attention to be right here. That's kind of the shape that you're creating. You're creating this like illusion of a heart shape. So you're kind of following your brows and going down like that. Keep that in mind. So you're going to be highlighting underneath the eyes, the cheekbones, and then some people do the chin, and then depending on like your face shape, you might want to highlight around the mouth. I like to do that. So you can kind of see now that I have my foundation on, my face does look kind of flat. I'm lacking some dimension. But if I turn my face like this, you can kind of see where the high points are, right? So you can kind of see that like my temple area goes back in space a little bit. My cheekbone comes forward. Underneath my cheekbone, this goes back in space. And then we have the chin, and then of course the jawline. So I'm gonna start off with creams. I personally like to highlight and contour with both creams and powders. And the reason that I do this is because I like to use kind of a small amount of product for each, then build it up slowly. It looks a little bit more natural, and it also makes sure that your creams last longer. Typically when you use a cream, you want to set it with a powder. That's just gonna make it last. If you're going for a really natural look and you prefer using creams, you don't necessarily have to set it. So again, personal preference. Now, as far as color goes, I am extremely fair. This is my natural skin tone, very, very fair. In my foundation video, I talked about how I have olive undertones and yellow overtones. I feel like it's not that obvious against this black background. I don't know how obvious it is. If you saw me next to anybody else, you would be like, wow, she's very green. So when I'm this fair, particularly, I have to have a more olive contour. I can't go gray. It can't be too red, can't be too orange. Otherwise, I just look sick. So if you're fair, one of my favorite contour palettes is this one by Kiss NY Pro. And this is their light medium cream contour palette. And what I love about this is, first of all, this color is really great. It's very universal as far as contouring goes, but it also comes with it. I don't know, this is so gross. Like, the palette looks disgusting. Please ignore. I like to mix them, and then I'll like mix it on the back of the palette. It's fine. But what I like about this is that it has the green shade. Now that's really important, especially if you're very olive, because that means that you can mix any of these colors with that green to create a more olive base. Especially when I do my nose contour, pretty much always when I do my nose contour, I mix these two shades. But when I'm this fair, I like to use these two shades as my overall contour color. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And to apply that, I'm going to be using this contour brush. This is a cream contour brush. This is by Stelazzi, and it's the S503. It's just like a, I don't know, kind of a flat synthetic brush, really. Just good for like applying creams. You can use it to blend, but I'm not going to. So if you guys can see this, I'm just going to kind of like pick up some of this product, pick up some of the green, and then you can mix it on the back of your hand. I like to use the top of the palette, whatever. That's why it looks disgusting. If you don't want your palette to look this disgusting, you don't have to do that. And now I'm just going to be placing this shade in the areas that I want to kind of set back. So like I said, I want to set back around my temples. So I'm just gonna kind of like sketch it out to begin with. We're not gonna worry about blending right now. To kind of like define this area and then kind of go like above. So I have a really big forehead, so I like to kind of shorten it a little bit. Then I'm going to do the cheekbones. So my cheekbones kind of go like this, the hollow of the cheekbone. Some, if you have like a more round cheek, you might want to go like this, like if you're like a Jaclyn Hill type. But I'm gonna carve out like that, kind of do like that shape, pointing down. First person I ever saw do that was Chloe Morello. I used to contour my face like typical Jaclyn Hill, like try to make my cheek look more round, and it just did not work for me. And I saw Chloe do this shape and I was like, what? You can do that. So changed my contour game. I'm gonna do a little bit here. So I like to kind of like shorten my jaw a little bit. I like to make this part of my face look smaller, kind of like accentuate the heart shape of it. And then I always do my jawline. Always. I think it's so important. It just like, I don't have a beautiful jawline, so I like to fake it. So I'm gonna go right along my jaw like that, and then I'm gonna kind of drag that down. So if you have like a beautiful jawline, you don't have to do this. And this is like, I'm doing this really intense, by the way, to show you. I don't usually do it this crazy. Maybe I do. So this is how I'm gonna start off by contouring my face, right? And I'll leave my nose for later. Oh, maybe I'll just do my nose right now. Honestly, my nose contour changes all the time. I mix it up basically every single day. I'm constantly experimenting because I don't think I've ever found a technique that I really enjoy. All right, I'm gonna do my nose. So I like to kind of like shorten the tip right there, and then kind of refine the tip, bring it up into my eyebrow area like that. I got a lot of bumps in my nose, so this is not easy for me. And then I like to just kind of like create this triangle shape, like bring it down like that, and then boop, which kind of like lifts it up a little bit. Yeah, looks crazy. This is what I've been doing recently. Like I said, I'm still experimenting. All right, now I'm going to highlight, and I'm going to be using concealer. So I'm going to be placing my concealer in all of the high points of the face, the areas that I want to, first of all, conceal and brighten. So I'm going to be using Tarte Shape Tape Concealer. This is in Light Sand. This is the color that I like to use. It's not too intense. It's not too bright or too light for my skin. It's maybe like a shade and a half lighter than my skin, maybe 2, but I like this because it's not way too intense. Typically you want to go like 2 shades. I would say safe bet is 2 shades lighter or darker than your skin. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight here. Really doesn't matter. You don't have to make any designs or anything. People sometimes do it. So I like to kind of like highlight this area. I'm gonna bring this down the center of my nose, so that'll straighten it a little bit right there. I'm going to highlight along the sides of my nose. And I really don't like using a lot of product, so I feel like I'm using more to show you guys. This is not how much I usually use. So just keep in mind that less is always better on my nose. And then I prefer highlighting around my mouth just because I feel like I get a lot of darkness there. So I just kind of do that. And then tip of my chin. So you can see we're kind of creating that like triangular shape. And then some people will intensify along here, like underneath their cheekbone. I'm not a fan of that, just because I kind of like this area to be smaller. So I don't want to bring too much attention to that area. All right, now, I don't typically do my highlighting and contouring at the exact same time, but I wanted to show you guys like what it was going to look like. All right, so I'm gonna start off by blending out my contour, and there's a few brushes that I like to use. I like this MAC 187S Duo Fiber brush. I also love this Morphe brush, the G4. I'm gonna use this because it's my like tried and true. So you could use a beauty blender, it's really up to you. And I like to kind of use pressing motions. You don't want to swipe because it can kind of like remove too much of the product. It can move your foundation around. You can use swiping motions in areas where you don't have like a lot of breakouts, but if you need fuller coverage, then you probably don't want to swipe. So it's kind of up to you. So you can see already the dimension that we're creating around our forehead. And then I'm just going to blend this down my neck a little bit. Blending is so important. You can see we've created like a really nice soft dimension to begin with. All right, for my under eyes, first of all, I use Tarte Shape Tape. This stuff sets real quick, so it's been setting for kind of a while. So I'm gonna spritz my Beauty Blender with a little bit of MAC Fix Plus, just to bring a little bit of hydration and life back to it. And then I'm just going to start blending underneath my eyes, the planes. So I like to really highlight the sides of my nose because it helps to kind of like refine it, make it look a little less wide. I let this set for too long. And then I'm gonna kind of blend around the edges with the butt of my sponge, which is what I went in with my foundation. All right, so I just went in and blended everything out basically. I'm gonna go over my jawline a little bit with the butt of my sponge just to soften that up a little bit. And then I usually will take it and kind of drag my foundation to make sure that I blend my jawline contour. Because sometimes it can look really crazy. Like if you just have so much darkness like here, and then the rest of your neck looks like the rest of your skin. That doesn't make any sense. So blending is everything. And then if you feel like you need to, you can go back in with a little bit more. I feel like I put a little too much highlight along my cheeks and stuff. Like I blended it out a little bit too far. So I'm just going to pick up that same Morphe brush and I'm gonna add just like a little more, just softly in my cheeks, the hollows of my cheeks. I'm trying to keep this a little more soft because we are gonna be going in and setting it with a powder. So if we want to intensify it later on, we can. But it's always best to start off with a smaller amount. So right now we're kind of just creating the bones of the face, if that makes sense, the underlying structure. All right, so next what I like to do is highlight using powder. Now I don't really use a heavy pigmented powder to highlight, even if I'm doing like highlighting and like I typically highlight with my concealer. I think that's the best thing to do. But I do like to do a little extra brightening using a powder to set that concealer. So my favorite one is the Kat Von D Lock-It Setting Powder. If you are fair, I think this is by far the best powder ever. It's got like a fine pearl in it, so it doesn't make you look super dry. It gives kind of like a luminous finish, and it's excellent for baking. Like it really brightens if you are fair and you have a difficult time finding a powder that's gonna bake. I don't really bake that much, but you know. All right, so now I like to do a little extra brightening by setting my under eyes because I have dark circles, so the more brightening I have underneath my eyes, the best. I've been using this MAC 133S brush. I really like it. It's part of their new like synthetic line, but it acts like a natural hair brush. So I don't know, some people have been saying bad things, but I love it. So you want to make sure that you're all blended underneath your eyes. You don't want any creasing. And then I'm going to use this to set and add a little extra brightening underneath my eyes and on the side of my nose. So you can see that that powder, obviously it mattified and it set underneath my eyes. Hopefully you can see that it creates more of a luminous quality though, that it's not like so caked on. If you feel like you've gone in with a little bit too much powder, MAC Fix Plus is always a great option if you need to like rehydrate the face. But it also provided a little bit extra brightening. You can kind of see that, like you can see the hollow of my eye a little bit more here, and this just makes it kind of look more all in one plane. So this is one of my favorite tricks, is to use a brightening powder under the eyes. If you guys want me to go into detail about how to cover up dark circles, by the way, I've had a couple requests. I think I'm probably gonna have to do it. I like to brighten along the side of the nose. You can kind of see how it just like sets this area with it. Kind of what happens is it doesn't set this area back right here. It kind of brings it forward with the rest of the under eye, if that makes sense. And then it sets this area back. Kind of just makes the nose look a little more narrow. All right, and then I'm gonna use that same powder to set the high points of the face, but I use like a very, very, very small amount because I don't really like to look powdery. So I'm just gonna set right there, especially since I have a couple breakouts. So I wanna make sure that I'm keeping the coverage there. You can also use a sponge. I like using this brush. I kind of like press it in with the brush and then sometimes I'll go over it with the sponge. Right there I like to brighten. I have a blemish right here that I didn't cover up. It's like kind of like along where my laugh lines would be or are. And then right here, so like I said, I get darkness around my mouth, and then I feel like my makeup kind of fades in that area easily. I don't usually do this under the chin. I don't know what I'm doing right now. Just ignore that. All right, so as far as highlighting with powder, that's what I do. You can bake if you want to like really brighten it up. I prefer a more dewy look, so this is even more matte than I typically like to do, but I just wanted to show you how you can brighten using powder. All right, so now I'm going to go in with powder contour, just to kind of like deepen everything up. I'm gonna do a little bit more than I usually do, just so you guys can like really see what's going on. And then I'm gonna go into some products that I'm gonna suggest for you guys, different skin tones, formulas that I like. There's gonna be different price points. So as far as powder, this is so dirty. As far as powder contouring, my favorite palette is the 9C palette by Morphe. You get a nice range of colors. They also have like some highlighting colors to set your under eyes. These are just a little too dark and also too yellow in my opinion for me. I pretty much never use those. Sometimes I do, I guess, whatever. Anyway, they have some great colors. So my favorite one is obviously this one because it's the most olive. I think it's an excellent contour shade. I use it all the time when I'm a little bit more tan and I have more warmth in my skin. And by warmth, I mean like if it's a little bit more orangey brown. you know. I like to mix these two colors, add a little bit of warmth with this. I also like that shade right there. I'm gonna be using this color to add a little bit more warmth, not warmth. I'm gonna be using this shade right here to add a little bit more of a contour. And I'm gonna start off by setting my like bronzer. I'm gonna go in with bronzer and then go in and kind of like refine my contour. To bronze, I'm going to be mixing these two shades to add a little bit more warmth to my skin. And I'm using my Morphe M527 brush. This is so dirty. And then I'm gonna kind of go over the areas that I contoured. So I'm just kind of like setting those areas really lightly. This is also good if you feel like you went in with a little bit too much concealer and you brightened up your face a little too much. I tend to do that because I really like to highlight under my eyes, but I can take it out a little too far. So you can kind of see like the center of my face is like really light. I'm gonna do the same thing around the cheeks. So I'm gonna start where I contoured and then I'm gonna kind of like slowly just kind of go over the rest of the face because I just like lightened it up so much. So this is just kind of like a trick if you feel like you went in with too much. And then I like to drag a little bit down the neck so that it's all cohesive. Wish that I had concealed those blemishes. Now, if you want to go for a more natural look, you can just stop here. I mean, obviously, if you want to go for a more natural look, you can do like just cream, just bronzer. You don't have to go like intense contouring. You can see where I have a very light contour from when I went in with the cream. Now I just went in with my bronze, so I warmed up the skin, but I kind of want to kick out like this part of my cheekbone just a little bit more. I want like a little bit more definition there. So I'm going to be using my Japanesque powder brush, and I'm going to go in with this olive contour shade. So I'm just going to pick it up on the tip of the brush. I always tap it off. Tap it off. You want to make sure you're not going in with too much product. And I'm just going to place this right in the hollow of my cheek. See? So I'm just adding just a little bit more definition right in there. Again, it's not necessary, but it just kind of like kicks out that cheekbone a little bit more. And I love this brush, especially for this. It just blends so easily because it's got like a nice refined tip, but then it gets fatter. It's kind of like just does the work for you. And then I feel like my under eyes are just like so bright. I mean, I personally like it that way, but I feel like people will have something to say about it, so try to tone it down a little bit. Now I'm also gonna go in with that more olive contour shade and just fix my nose contour. I don't know, went with like a really small amount. Kind of do the same thing. Someday I will learn how to contour my nose properly. I've only been practicing for like 3 years. I think I'd get it by now. No matter what I do. Life is hard. See, I thoroughly enjoy that. It's not too much, but it looks good. And then if you want to bake, you can kind of intensify certain areas. Like if you feel like you've taken your contour down a little bit too far, I'll just show you like why the hell not. You can pick up a little bit of whatever powder you like to bake with. Use the Kat Von D one. I'm gonna pick it up on my sponge. I'm just gonna kind of like carve out the under part of my contour. Just right there. That's it. And I'm just gonna add like a little bit. And this stuff is no joke, like it bakes. So I'm just gonna leave that for a second. And the reason that I don't bring it out too far this way, I don't bring it all the way out here, is because I like to contour this area to kind of like I said, refine the bottom part of my face. And you can use this in any area that you want. If you wanna bake the chin, if you wanna bake underneath the eyes, if you wanna bake like the sides of the nose. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna bake along the sides of my nose. Just right there. That's it. Not the under part of my eyes. I don't like baking the underside of my eyes because I feel like it can make them look really dry and creepy and gross. I'm just gonna bake right along here. So I'm gonna leave this for, I don't know, like a minute. Not too long. All right, so I just left this on for a minute. I'm just gonna dust it away. Just do a little bit of blending. If I left it on for a little bit longer, it would just be too much because it really does brighten. So it just kind of like cleans up that edge a little bit, you know, but just in a natural way. I never bake the sides of my nose. All right guys, so that is how I highlight and contour using creams and powders. Again, you do not have to use both. You can use only creams, you can use only powders, you can of course use both. I do suggest that if you're a beginner that you start off with powders. It's just less aggressive and it's a lot easier to find a color that's gonna work for you. Personally, I think. I do want to go over some palettes that I would recommend for different skin tones and different finishes, and it's also different price points. So again, the Kiss NY Pro Cream Contour Palette is excellent, especially if you are, I would say, fair to light and you have olive undertones. They also have the other color correctors here, so it's great for mixing. It's just got excellent colors. The formulas are really nice. They're very blendable and they're not too pigmented. So it's very difficult to go in with like way too much. And it's Kiss NY Pro, so you know it's affordable. don't know if you can get this in drugstores, but you can for sure get it online. Another cream contouring palette that I love is the Shade and Light palette by Kat Von D. I'm not so wild about, why do all my palettes have to look so disgusting? I'm not so wild about the highlighting colors, but honestly, this contour shade is so good. Sometimes I'll just use this by itself, but I prefer it when I have a little bit more of a tan, just because I think it's got a nice kind of neutral, it's good for olive skin, but it's a little bit more neutral. So it's a little more flattering on me when I have like a little bit more warmth in my skin. I can get away with it. But I do love the formulas of this. It's excellent, and you can buy the individual replacements, which is great. KVD. All right, also I love this palette by BH Cosmetics. This is the Studio Pro, I think this is a concealer palette. Oh no, I'm sorry, this is the cream contour palette. And they have a bunch of different colors here. So you have a bunch of different contour shades. You've got like bronzer shades. You can use some of these as color correctors. This is, you've got concealers. This is a great palette. The formulas are really nice and creamy and blendable, and it's super affordable, BH Cosmetics. So I absolutely love this. I don't really use it that often. I think this one's like fairly new, but it's a really great option. It's super affordable, and I just like really like the shades. This one's probably the contour shade that I would go with. Yeah, you can also use this to highlight. Like, they have nice variation here. It's like you can do a lot of mixing. I love palettes like this. And then probably the most expensive option, but it's just so good. This is the Natasha Denona Sculpt and Glow palette. This is Sculpt and Glow. This is light medium. The formulas are so good. This contour shade, amazing. Absolutely perfect. I love it so much. I think it's really, really versatile. It works for like a lot of different skin tones. And her cream and powder formulas are, I think they're unmatched. They're super smooth and blendable. They're not too pigmented, but they have really nice color. It's impossible to go in with too much. It's impossible to not be able to blend these shades with your skin tone. The only discrepancy I have with this palette is that the powder contour is like far more, it's got like a little bit more red and purple in it. So it's not flattering on me at all, considering I'm so much more olive, but the cream is excellent. The cream highlight is great. The highlighting powder would probably be best for light to medium skin, in my opinion. Not fair. I can't get away with using this when I'm fair, but the highlighters, the cream and powder highlights are also gorgeous. So excellent formula. If you're looking for like a really top-notch palette, I would recommend this. You guys know Natasha Denona is not cheap, so it's an investment. It's also just like, oh, it's golden and pretty. Oh, and she has the darker one. I gave it to my friend because she's a makeup artist, but she has a darker one. I think it's medium to dark or medium to deep skin. So she has like two different ones. So you've got nice range there. And I remember correctly, I think I liked the colors. Then again, as far as powder contouring, obviously everybody knows the NYX contour palette. You can also order like refills now, which is really great, and they have awesome colors. Mine's all the way over there and I'm not gonna get it. So everybody knows it, come on. NYX, it's affordable, it's great. But I wanted to talk about a couple other ones. Obviously the Morphe 9C palette. Personally, in my opinion, it's just worth it for this shade right here, especially if you're olive and you're fair. So good. I will sometimes mix, like if I feel like this is a little too dark, I'll mix it with one of these shades or something, or I mix colors from this all the time. Like I use all of them pretty much except for this like super dark brown. But it's a great palette. I think it's excellent if you're looking for like a really olive powder contour. So good, so good. And Morphe, so it's affordable. And then the last one that I want to talk about, this is from City Color Cosmetics. This is their Contour Effects Palette 2. This is a really great palette. I don't like that color. I'll just say it right now. But if you're extremely fair, like if you are Snow White, this is a great bronzer shade. So it's not really contouring, but it's such a good bronzer shade. And I was going through my palettes and I found it and I was like, I have to mention this. That color right there. Great. Really great for fair people. Yeah. And I just want to reiterate before I end this video that if you haven't seen my foundation video, you should go check it out. It's really important to understand your skin tone, your overall skin tone, understand what your overtone is and your undertone are, because they combine to create your overall skin tone. So understanding the color of your skin, so important, and the relationship of colors, and I go into full detail in my foundation video. So please go check that out. It's very informative, and it'll make this a lot easier. You can apply the exact same rules. All right guys, again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. You can follow me on all the socials. Every single one is listed down below. I have not been that active on Snapchat because I heard that they were gonna bring back the old platform, the old, whatever it's called, style. They haven't done it yet, and I'm sick of it, honestly. You can probably Instagram story is the best place to find me. Do you like my M&M shirt? As always, if you have any suggestions for future videos, let me know down in the comments. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one.